Welcome to another episode of The Unconventional Path. I'm Corel Pinder, and today we are talking about how to overcome writer's block. So to tell you guys the truth, it isn't until recently that I have had to deal with writer's block. The reason why is because the production side of my business has always been seasonal, and from the very first production that I wrote, it just kind of came to me. And so as soon as it started to come to me, I started to write down ideas. And I think writer's block tends to be more prevalent with someone who may be in school and they're trying to write by a deadline, or if they are on a job and they have to write. And I was hired before, I think I was in 2020, to write on a TV show, but I didn't experience writer's block then because in the writer's room there was a lot of breaking down of ideas, and so the ideas kind of were like already there for you once you were assigned an episode, so I didn't really experience it then. So I think, like I said, usually if someone is hired to write a movie where they're just a solo person writing, or someone's in school, they usually experience writer's block. But for me, everything that I've done before that was passion projects, and what has happened was I got an idea long before. So before my first play went up, Sarah's Wedding, I kind of got an idea from one of the characters storyline, probably like a year or two before. Again, it was something that I was doing as a passion project. So when the full idea came to me and flooded me after the first initial idea, which was a year before, I just wrote it. And every other production I did like that kind of came out of the same situation. I did go to school for screenwriting, so in that season, because we were forced to write something new, I think I dealt with writer's block a little bit, but still I was in a class, and so I had an instructor there. So recently I dealt with writer's block because I am now putting together a pilot for a film festival, and so I don't plan to enter until 2023, but still I want to kind of put pen to paper. And so it took me a long time to come up with what kind of idea do I want. I wanted to hit, I wanted to stick. This is the first time I'm going to enter a film festival. And it wasn't until I really sat with it for a long time that I remembered an idea that came to me way back in 2015. If you remember the episode where I talked about the job that I was on for 6 months, the very first day of that job, an idea came to me, and I was just like, I don't know if I'll ever write this. I don't know when I'd write it. I had only written one play by that time, which was in 2014. So by 2015, my life had shifted. I'd moved to a different island. I was working, but that idea came to me on the first day. And I was just like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever write it. I don't know. So the other day when I was just sitting down, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to think about? That came to me, and I was like, this is going to be the pilot. This is something that I wanted to do from 2015, and so now I'm going to put pen to paper. Stay tuned to see how that unfolds and what the whole story is about. You know, just stay tuned to the page, and you know, I'll let you in a little more as we keep going. But that's something, that was the first time I went through writer's block. So I want to tell you 3 things that I did to kind of work through that. And then I'm going to give you a little insight on my writing process about how do I go about writing. So first is how I got over the writer's block. So one of the first things that I do to get over writer's block is I listen to music. I literally write to music. So I write a lot about, there's always going to be some love element in the story. And so usually I'm listening to love songs, whether that's great love songs of falling in love or heartbreak songs. They kind of trigger what I want to put in a scene. And so once that is done, I kind of start to move with certain emotions of what I want to have, what I want to see, and that kind of triggers some thoughts. So the first thing is I listen to music, and most times it's some love-related music, and that kind of gets the wheels turning and moving. That's the first thing. The second thing is I people watch. And a lot of people, they laugh at my productions and plays because it's so relatable, a lot of the content that the people say. But literally, if you just kind of observe the people around you, you will notice that people say funny and hilarious things all the time. And I just kind of make a mental note of, that seems so weird, but actually people do that. That was very funny what that person said. Someone said something this morning when I was at the gym, and I can't remember what she said, but whatever she said, it was, the person said, you cannot leave it was a boot camp. It was in a gym. And the person told the young lady, she was like, you cannot leave because I need to measure you before you leave. And she was like, no, I won't get measured today. I don't need that negative energy in my life. You will not bring that negative energy to me. And I was just like, and she was serious, like just her emotions, her emphasis, how she did it, how she was walking, how she was talking, the whole thing. I was just like, I could totally see this in a character, but I people watch, and that kind of ignites the kind of characters that I want to write. And the third thing I do is I go out in nature. And for me, I live in the Bahamas, so I go and take a walk on the beach. So walking on the beach kind of helps me to just, be one with God, have that time, but it also helps ideas to flow into me. Just getting out of the space of my regular routine just kind of opens my mind and allows thoughts to kind of come down. Sometimes we call them like a digital download or a heavenly download, but God just kind of floods ideas there, and then I keep them. So my process, so those are 3 things that I do to get over writer's block. I listen to music, I people watch, and I also, take a walk in nature. And for me, that's on the beach. So my writing process, how it starts, like I told you with my productions that I have done before, I have usually had the idea like a year before. Almost every production that I have written that was a stage play, I had it for a year before. This year was the first time I was hired to write a production. I was Rich Auntie. And so I didn't really have writer's block then because the people that hired me, they kind of had a lot of goals and things that they wanted done. And so it was challenging on a different spectrum because the challenge was trying to mix their story with, trying to mix an authentic story with all of the things they wanted delivered through this piece. So I was hired this year, but every other production that I wrote on my own, I kind of knew a year before, like, this is what I want to write. So I would walk around with my phone, and then in the notes section of my phone, I would jot down notes throughout that year of, this is something that I would want. This is the kind of character I would want. And a lot of people for my main character, I have chosen them like a year before. I have seen them in some kind of production, and they capture my attention, and I'm like, you're gonna play it. You're like one of the lead of my show New Rules. I saw her in Fame, and I can't remember. I think I saw her in Fame in 2012, and in 2016 I was like, you're gonna be the lead. And then my lead for Star in 2018, she was the younger version of one of the main characters in Sarah's Wedding in 2014, and she had a lot of spice and pizzazz to her, but it wasn't until I saw her play a snake in Georgia School of Dance Jungle Book. And so she just was a snake, but the way she commanded the stage as a snake, I was just like, give this girl some lines because she's gonna really do what she has to do. So basically a year, my writing process starts kind of most of the time like a year before, and I'm just jotting down notes in my phone. So the second thing that I do is I write a very detailed outline. So that's not only what I want to happen in each scene, but it's like, what's the conflict that's going to happen? Which characters are going to be in the scene? How are we moving the story forward in this scene? All of those things, as much details as possible, so that when it is time to write it all out, I can go very smoothly. There's some people who don't do an outline. I was in a class that Shonda Rhimes did before, and she said she doesn't write with an outline. I can't. I need the outline. I need the structure. I need to know where we're going, or I'm just going to be totally confused. So all of that time of just, taking time to let things download, that all happens way before I do the outline or when I do the outline. But once I'm starting to write, I need to know where I'm going. And it may change, so I'm not saying that it hasn't changed before. There's a direction that hasn't changed, but having the outline helps to prevent writer's block. Indeed. So the first thing is I take time to just absorb all of those things and write it in notes. The second thing is I do a detailed outline. Number 3 is then I write draft 1. And so draft 1 doesn't have to be perfect. I know sometimes people keep reading it over, and I do read it back several times while I'm writing. However, I don't make super changes. I'm not really over analyzing grammar and different things like that. I'm just writing so I can try and kind of get it all out. And so that's number 3. I just write draft 1, and I'm not over analyzing anything. After I write draft 1, the 4th thing that I do is I read it over. Do I like it? Does it make sense? Am I taking an easy way out, where it's just I just want to hurry up, get to this next scene, or I just want to hurry up, allow the person to know that this is happening or whatever. So I do that. So I read it over, and then I write another draft. So that's, changing some things out, correcting some things that are there, but I read it over for myself and I correct things. The fifth one, I do not like it, but I love it at the same time. So the fifth one is I get very honest. And the reason why I say this over and over is sometimes when I watch a production or a film or something, one of my questions that I always give to the writer is, did someone read this? Did someone read this? And they're like, yes, I had people review it. I had people, who read it? Who? So I think it's so important to have people who are going to be honest and direct. And when I say that the people that I have read my stuff don't hold back, they don't hold back. But having honest people that are in the industry, so they know that something that's on industry standard. Because if you just get your friends, sometimes they may not just be honest because they want to spare your feelings, or they may not know if this is not on industry standard. They don't know that you don't have an inciting incident. They don't know that you don't have enough conflict. They don't know that the stakes are not high enough. They don't know that you didn't, have act 1, act 2, act 3, and that they didn't see the arc. They don't know any of that. And so therefore it's important that I'm not only allowing someone to read it who I feel is critical and they're my friend, but someone who knows what industry standard is so that they can give you feedback. And then after that, I write draft 3. So those are the 5 things that I do when I'm writing. And so that's how I kind of walk through the process. And I had asked people online, like, what are some things that you want to know? And Jillian Gray asked me what was my writing process. So thanks, Jillian Gray, for asking me about that on Facebook. And so that's the process that I go through when I'm writing. I take some time to get some ideas and I put those ideas in the note section. Then I do an extremely detailed outline. Then I write draft 1 and then I read it over and I write draft 2 and then I give it to trusted, honest industry people and non-industry people so that it also translates to the general public, and then I have them read it and then I rewrite the 3rd draft and then I put it out there for the world to see. So those are some of the things that I go through with the writing process. If you want to know more, if you have more questions about the writing process, let me know in the comments below. Like, I want to hear from you. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this episode. Can't wait to see you next week, Wednesday.